in this paragraph? What's going on in this story?
They were staying back to the Bible when I think it's when Peter denied Jesus.
Ooh, close. Not when Peter denied Jesus. Jesus is already dead at this point, dead and risen and gone up to heaven.
Oh.
So now they're out doing work, right? Peter's out doing work. First, maybe before we jump into like what's going on, let's talk about what are Jews and Gentiles. In the vocab word, there was a little bit in there, Manuel. Gentiles is just anybody that's not Jewish. So look around the room. Everybody look around the room real quick. Everybody you see, they're all Gentiles. I have like a little bit of Jewish somewhere along the line, somewhere, but like we're all Gentiles, right? Everybody in all of our families, we're all Gentiles. So Jewish? Oh, Judaism, Judaizer? So, okay, so great question. So Judaizer is another one of the vocab words. We're going to get to that 2 paragraphs down. That is, so Jesus has gone up to heaven. They're the first group of Christians. We read about them on Thursday. They had problems with what?
Romans.
They had problems with Romans, but like what was their church issue? Their first like church fight was about race. Yeah, was about race, right? So they're now like they're going to have their second kind of racial issue. This is in Galatians. What's the problem? What's going on in this paragraph? So now we know Jews and Gentiles. What's going on? How did they treat each other? Like they don't know each other. They had like different customs. They like stay. If you were Jewish and I was a Gentile, you said like, you dirty Gentile, get away from me. Good Jews, they would say that to this whole room. They walk in here and they'd be like, ugh. And not you black guys and this long haired dude. They'd be like, you Gentiles, all of us together. They'd see the 4, 7, 8 of us and go like, you Gentiles, just because we're not Jewish. They also had different food laws and all kinds of different stuff. That's important because what happens in this paragraph?
Peter and James start to eat with the Gentiles instead of the Jewish people.
Okay, Peter starts eating with the Gentiles after James sends some guys, all right? James sends some folks here. They are all Jewish. They come and they visit. Peter is Jewish or Gentile?
Jewish.
Peter's Jewish, super Jewish. James is too. Some guys, some buddies of James, who we can assume are Jews, they come and visit Peter. Peter has been kicking it with the Gentiles. He's been eating with them. He's been hanging out with them. Is he supposed to do that, Jazz? No, he's not. Not according to like good Jewish rules. And so like these Jewish friends, his Jewish friends come over and what's he do?
He eats with the Gentiles.
He was eating with the Gentiles. What happens when his Jewish buddies show up?
He separates them.
He goes, whoop.
So basically it's kind of like you start hanging around with people and you start acting like he ain't got nothing in common with it.
And his old friends come back, and what's he do to his new friends? He ghosts on them.
So basically it's basically like he acting one way in front of them, and then once he go in front of his other friends, it's like he just don't know.
Yeah. So Jazz said it's basically like he's acting one way in front of his one group of friends, and when his other group of friends come, he's acting like he doesn't even know them. Exactly. Emmanuel? Yeah. So take some time typing on it in the annotations, and we'll circle back. Right? That's a great. You're on to it already. All right. So he's seeing that, like, wait a minute, why are you changing up? And he snapped on him. This is Paul writing this book of Galatians. He snapped on him and went like, no, you're not gonna do that. We're not gonna have these like constant little petty racial issues where we're treating each other some type of way, especially because you know better. You were hanging out with all these dudes. So like, where are you now? Keep that same energy. Don't be like trying to look good in front of the Jews. Do your thing, man. Sticks them. All right. Second little paragraph here. This one's very short. I'm going to read this one. Race is a part of the history of the United States and a part of the history of the church. Many of the personal and corporate experiences of Christians with race have been shameful and hurtful. Isaiah, what's the kind of corporate that we're talking about there? Is it like a business? No, what was it in the vocab?
It was a big group of people.
Kind of like a big group of people. Next time, Jazz, let Isaiah finish it if I'm asking him a question, okay? But you're right. It's just a big group of people. So many of the personal experiences of Christians and the like large group, like we were reading about those churches on Thursday, with race have been shameful and hurtful. Race is not an easy topic to engage. Think about this while I'm finishing off this sentence. Everybody be with me for a second here. Think about, is that true? Do you agree with that? Race is not an easy topic to engage. If you're online, like type in the chat, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. Race is not an easy topic to engage. Looking for a yes or no from everybody. If you're in the room, give me a thumbs up. Yes, it's easy to engage, or thumbs down. No. Okay. Okay. A little bit mixed in the room. I think that's because I gave bad directions. Let me give better directions. Yes, it is hard to engage, hard to have race conversations. Thumbs up. No, it's easy. Thumbs down. Yes, it's hard. Thumbs up. No, it's easy. Thumbs down. If you're in the middle, okay, I can kind of see that. We're a little bit mixed in the chat too. There's some no's, there's some yeses. Nick's saying yes with some people. Dom is saying the same thing. This is unique. So you guys gave different answers than third hour, which is cool. I like that a lot. If you're saying with some people, say more about that. Nick or Wesley or Dom, you guys are all in the chat. Say more about that. James, what were you going to say though while we're waiting for them to get in the chat?
I would like to say it's easy because everything in the world basically like revolve around race. And it's especially easy with black people because not like black people, but people in your own kind because like you talk about how the other races criticizing you and like now you criticizing them.
Okay.
And for white people, it's like it's the same thing around basically. So yeah.
Okay.
Like, race is a lot of
So James was saying everything kind of relates back to race, and so especially if you're with like your group, then like it really becomes easy because you talk about like what's happening with your group and like how that interacts with other groups. Jazz, go ahead.
Yeah, so kind of what James was saying, but in a way I kind of disagree because it just depends. So like, if you really don't know about that race, you can't. It's not an easy topic to try to engage in because that's like saying you don't know anything about presidential, but you're trying to get yourself involved with politics and stuff like that.
Okay. So James was saying everything kind of revolves around race. Jazz said like, I get that, but like if you don't know what you're talking about, it can be like really complicated, which is something we read about a little bit earlier. Nick, thanks for getting in the chat, man. He said not race because some people have a mindset that they're always right and they don't want to listen. So it'll be hard to talk and have a conversation. That's Nick. I think that's like right on, man. I have experienced a lot of that in the last few months, just talking with grown adults that I know that like they think they know everything. And so this kind of connects what Jazz was talking about and what James is talking about. Cause I would go like, I think it's kind of easy to talk about, but I also like, especially in the last 5 years or so, have started really like thinking about it as like, what can I learn from people when we're talking about it? And if you come in thinking that you know everything already, it can very quickly become a very hard conversation because you see exactly what Nick was talking about in the chat, that some people don't really want to listen. They just want to spout off what they want to say. Okay, finishing off that sentence then, back to the beginning, race is not an easy topic to engage. Sabian, thanks for starting a conversation there in that. And then Jazz and Emmanuel, thanks for hopping in and putting some thoughts in there. Nick, I would encourage you to just copy paste even what you put in the chat right here into perusal, where Sabian asked that question at the start of this sentence. Race is not an easy topic to engage on.
Where is that at?
So it's in the first like actual paragraph of Confronting Racism right here. And I've got the start of the sentence highlighted on my screen. If you look at my screen, race is not an easy topic to engage. The
okay.
second sentence in there. But an unwillingness to confront the issue of racism is one of the greatest roadblocks to reconciliation. Why? It's hard to talk about, but if we don't talk about it, that's one of the greatest roadblocks to fixing the problem. Why?
Because really, if you don't talk about it, and some people don't know about it, it's nothing you can do to fix it, because it's like saying that you heard something that you know you should do something about, but then keeping it to yourself where it just nothing happens.
Okay. Jazz said it's kind of like if you heard something that you know like needs addressing, you know has to be talked about, and you don't do anything, how's it going to get better? All roads lead back to neck tattoos, right, Cam? All roads lead back to things go wrong when people who know better become yes men. If you just, sometimes being a yes man isn't going like, yeah, that's a great idea. Sometimes it's just shutting your mouth and not saying anything. Well, it can be, right? If you just go along with it. You ever heard, this is a controversial statement, but some people say silence is consent. Where they say like, you know what consent is? Somebody says like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Why would somebody say silence is consent? In the chat, guys, think about that too. Why would somebody say silence is consent? Think on it for a second. Just think on it for a second. Why would somebody say silence is consent? If you think about consent as like agreeing to something, letting it happen. We're just asking a question. It's not in the reading, but it's similar to it. Silence is consent. Think about that, guys. Narvel, why would maybe somebody say silence is consent?
Because if you don't stop nobody, you basically saying they can do whatever.
Okay. Yeah. I think you nailed it, right, ma'am? Like if you don't stop, if you know something that should be stopped, you don't say anything about it. Or somebody says like, hey, do you want to, you want to go to the movies tonight? I kind of want to go to the movies tonight. And like, really, you don't? You want to just sit home and play the game? But you don't say anything?
Then they buy a ticket on that stuff, and then you have to go and you don't know.
Yeah. Jazz said like, well, next thing you know, you're at the movies, you're all salty. They're like, why are you being so cranky? Well, why? Because like you really didn't want to go. But silence is consent. You went along with it. Okay. Wesley, you're saying I don't think silence is really consent. Say more about that, Wesley. Nick, I get what you're saying, man. Yeah, Nick said I don't think it's true, but maybe because they're not disagreeing with it. I think that's the big key, right? Alex said the idea here is that if you don't disagree, you automatically agree, right? Which like, yeah, Nick, I'm with you, man. Like, is that fundamentally true? No. Because like going back to this example at the movie theater, you're at the movie theater, you've been salty about it the whole time. Do you actually agree? No. But does it seem a lot like you do? Yeah, that's the tough part, right? That's what we're looking at. Right, Marcus? Okay, hang in there, man. Head up, okay? Montreal said, like, some people can be scared to speak up. Yeah, totally. In that fear, though, Montreal, I get what you're saying, man. Sometimes, though, stupid things happen because somebody's afraid to, like, face a little social pressure and they just kind of go along with it. That's exactly what we're talking about here. If we're unwilling to confront the issues of racism, then guess what? Is it ever going to get any better? Nope. All right. Next paragraph. Marcus, were you going to read? Okay. At in Galatians 2. Hmm? Hmm?
Gotta go on.
There you go. You got it.
In Galatians, Paul confronts his fellow apostle Peter. Peter receives a powerful vision from heaven, which helped him understand that God had accepted the Gentiles into the fellowship of the Lord Jesus. Peter, having received this revelation, had begun to eat and build community with the Gentiles. However, Jewish Christians from Jerusalem had not yet received the revelation, and they still rejected Gentile believers. When these Judasers arrived, Peter hypocritically shunned the Gentiles. His behavior was shameful and, above all, damaging to the Christian fellowship. And it would have gone unchecked and uncorrected had Paul not called it out. This principle holds for our dealings with the difficult issue of racism in America. And in the American church, Christians can't get it right. And we can't be reconciled unless we call out racism.
Okay. So why was it such an issue? Like we read about it, and in that first paragraph, in like the section that was quoting from Galatians, it doesn't seem like I get why it's a big deal, but it doesn't seem like that crazy. But then you hear the backstory here, and like it went like, oh, no wonder Paul was like so mad about this. Because what's the story behind the story? What had already happened with Peter?
You see a vision of heaven?
I need somewhere else to be. Isaiah, I guarantee you one of these four dudes does not need the plug right now, okay? Be a solution finder, all right? Be a solution finder. Why? What had Peter already gotten? What was the issue?
It said, you talking about when he received the vision of heaven?
Yeah. Yeah. So Emmanuel and James were saying, Peter's already gotten like, God came and talked to Peter and said like, it's cool, man. We're done with all these like rules about what we eat and who we hang out with. We're done with that. You're Jewish, but like go hang out with the Gentiles. Go eat with the Gentiles. It's no problem. So like, then these Jews show up and they're like, hey, how come you're eating with these guys? And what does he say? Nothing. He doesn't go, nah, bro, God shut up, talked to me, told me, you know what? It's cool. We're straight if we eat with them. No issues.
So does that make us Jews because we never Christians?
Okay, so that's a great question. Does that make us Jews? No. Because that these Judaizers, those were these people, that was from the vocab words. What's a Judaizer?
Someone who says that
What do you have to do to be saved?
someone who says that you have to be saved. So like follow
You have to do what? What do you have to do?
law. Follow Jewish law.
You had to follow the Jewish laws, right? So these Judaizers said, if you want to be a Christian, you have to be Jewish like we are. You got to follow the Jewish laws. So Emmanuel's asking, are we Jewish? No. We are part of God's people, God's family, which is interesting because it used to be for the whole Old Testament, it was just Jewish people. We're part of God's family. Now we're like brought into that family, which is cool, but we're not like, we're like adopted into that family. So like, if I adopt some kids from Japan, they're like my kids, but they're not going to match my children that are my biological children. This is basically the same. When God goes like, all right, the Gentiles, they're in too. We're not the same as Jewish people, but we're the same as Jewish people. So it's like complex, right? Where we're like siblings, but we're not biological siblings. Yeah. So good question. Not a bad thing to like think about dropping in the annotation somewhere, Emmanuel. So it's tough because Peter knows better. And when these guys show up who don't know better, he doesn't tell them the truth. He just like goes back to doing what he was like supposed to be doing as a good Jewish boy. It's like hard to fault him on that. These are his boys. They've probably been his boys for a while. But not gonna. Yeah, he should have helped them understand, right? What did they not understand yet? They didn't understand. Jews and Gentiles can be together. Yeah, James. Like, they didn't know that. And what he should have done was gone, hey, look, this is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be a little bit hard to believe for a minute. Because when he goes like, yo, God told me, what are they going to go? Like, yeah, bro. However, this is Peter, who like walked around with Jesus for 3 years and like walked on water and was like, nobody's going to ask any questions. When Peter goes, hey, God talked to me in a dream. They're all going to go, of course he did. But we're tempted to believe, I'm sure he was tempted to believe that people are going to go, no, bro, what are you talking about? You're weird, folks. Get away from us. That was bogus, though. Not what was going to happen. Okay. Good. His behavior was shameful. Sabian, how was it shameful? Sabian, do you get why that was an issue now? You asked a question about that. Yeah.
You hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Good deal. All right. Good job, guys. Let's see. Marcus, Peter, what he was doing was right by trying to hold a bond with the Gentiles, and the Jewish people didn't like it. So Peter left without saying, yeah, that's a good kind of summary of what was going on, Marcus. I like that. All right, cool. Let's see. Hey, Keeve, you shut up 20 minutes late. Can you read the next one for us?
You trying to be funny?
I am trying to be funny. Thank you for appreciating my humor.
I got you. Yeah. Wait. Hold on. And we on the colorblind ideology.
No, we're one up above that. Last one on the first page. We must confront.
We must confront racism with humility and grace, with a posture of self-examination, not self-defense, remembering that God demands something of all of us. Exodus 20. Even if we've been the victim. As Christians, we ought to have a much clearer view of our own depravity and need for mercy. That awareness of sin in our lives and in our own culture must drive us to a posture of humility. First toward God, then by extension to our fellow humans. Ephesians 5:21. Furthermore, being aware of the profound mercy and forgiveness of God, we shall find grace to comfort our personal and cultural issues, knowing that we serve a God God of love, who intends to cleanse us from sin rather than to destroy us because of it.
Awesome. Thanks, Keeve. All right, a couple things I want to look at in here for sure. We're going to take a couple minutes to give you guys some space to annotate. Jay, make sure your head's up, okay? A couple things I want to just think about and put on your mind before we start. We take a little break to do some annotations on this paragraph. First one is, in that first sentence, it says, remembering that God demands something of all of us, even if we've been the victim. I want you to just think about, Cam, how do you feel about that? Remembering that God demands something of all of us, even if we've been the victim. I struggle a little bit with that sentence. I want to hear some of y'all thoughts about that in the chat, in the annotations, out loud in a minute, but we're going to take a little break before we do that. And then the sentence right after that is also really tough and a lot to think about. And Emmanuel's already put a little bit of thought into that already in the annotations. The next sentence says, as Christians, we ought to have a much clearer view of our own depravity. From the vocab earlier, what's depravity? Depravity.
It's something like, oh, wickedness and corruption.
Yeah, James said wickedness and corruption. As Christians, you got it, Cam? Yeah, thanks, man. As Christians, we ought to have a much clearer view of our own depravity, our own wickedness, and need for mercy. Why? Right? We're going to take 4 minutes right now. We'll go to 226. Working on annotations for this paragraph. Okay, Marcus? 2 things I want you to focus on if you're stuck or confused. If you don't know what to if you're not sure what to make an annotation about, go to that first sentence and think about when it says remembering that God demands something of all of us, even if we've been the victim. Think about how do you feel about that sentence? If you're not sure what to annotate. Or maybe think about, it says, as Christians, we ought to have a much clearer view of our own brokenness and need for mercy. What does it mean? What are we talking about? Take 4 minutes.
Just finished my summaries, so you can stop talking stuff now.
All right.
I'll read it up.
Good deal. All right. Give about 30 seconds, and then we'll go Tyree, Luis, and Makai. I want to hear from all 3 of you. One thing about that paragraph could be anything that you want.
Can I go right now?
Yeah, go ahead, Makai.
All right. I had said that for when it has said that we must confront racism with humility and grace, I had said that we got to confront the daily problems in the society.
Okay. I like that. You got to
The
confront.
same, the same thing he said. We got to be humble with it and show grace. When that hurt.
You good?
Yeah, I had hit my hand on the fan. We got to be humble with when we confront them about it. We don't gotta. There gotta be no violence.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, awesome. Jay, make sure your head's up, okay? Hey, Luis, what do you got for us on that last paragraph? Can be in the chat, can be off mute, however you want it. Give us something, okay? Luis, you there, man? Okay, go ahead. Sabian, man, you asked the $1 million question, right? It says we must confront racism with humility and grace. You're saying, how do we do that, right? I think that's huge. That's a great question.
Emmanuel has said, he said, this means that we need forgiveness for the prophet. I agree with him because, it basically talks about us being forgiven from all of our corrections, wickedness, and taking a lot of.
Okay. So James was saying, Emmanuel said this means we need forgiveness from our own issues, and James was agreeing with that. Sabian asked a great question. He said, how do we do that? How do we confront racism with humility and grace? Okay. Emmanuel asked, does that mean we confront racism without we stop thinking about how other races are superior? That's probably part of it. What else? How can we like go about confronting racism with humility and grace? When you hear about somebody being racist, how does it make you feel? Like James said, like they're a disgrace. What were you saying, Manuel? What were you saying? That like they need to get slapped. Okay, Cam, when you hear about somebody doing something racist, how does that make you feel? About specifically like about them. How do you feel about them? Yeah, Cam's a liar. I just like dislike them. James said like they seems like they're kind of the disgrace. Jay? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and the people being racist, that means like like the person that sees the other person being racist, that means like they start to think that everybody else is racist.
Okay. So like I'm totally with that, right? Like I think the gut reaction is when somebody does something racist, we think that they are like they're dumb. They're messed up. Do I want to be humble about like how I approach somebody who does something racist? Oh, yeah, Cam, like I don't like him. Like he straight up said it, and I agree. Like I don't. I just have like I have this real. It's like a pride, and like I'm sure it's totally different being a black guy than it is being a white guy. But like when I hear my white friends or like white people that I know go like do something, say something racist, I go like, all right, well you just went from like you were a white friend to like now you're a white guy that I know, but like I don't want to be friends with you. I don't want to be around you. I just like it it bothers me. And that's a me pride issue of going like, man, it's bad. But I tell you what, I got my own stupid things that like are issues. And maybe they're not the same, but like it's really hard to be humble about that and to go like, man, like it said in the first part, we have to be really clear-eyed about like what are our own issues so that we can go, oh snap, like I probably should be willing to give a little bit of grace here. Go ahead, Jazz.
Yeah, so basically what I was saying when I first you said that. So it's more like if you know something is better your race or something like that, it's better. It's not right. It's better to be humble and just take it and leave it instead of going up to a different race and try to brag about it.
For sure.
You never see the right way to be trying to brag.
For sure. Yeah, I like that. Jazz Sam never goes the right way if we kind of brag about it. Yeah, go ahead, Jay. All right. Good. Sabian, you're asking some good questions today, man. I really appreciate that. Good work. All right, we got two left. I'm trying to remember, were there somebody else in the room said they wanted to read? Jay, was it you? You want to read the next one? Okay. Let me mute myself and then you get off mute and we're good. Good.
The colorblind ideology that says I don't see race should not be embraced by Christians. When we choose to look past race, we also choose to avert our eyes from many ways that even well-meaning people and institutions engage in practice that reproduce and reinforce negative outcomes such as segregation, disadvantages for minorities, and job market, and the portrayal
Portrayal.
portrayal of whiteness as superior in public communications and entertainment. The simple fact is that if we can see and discuss the issues in race, we cannot solve the problems that racism caused. When we see that Black American preschools are 6.3 times more likely to be suspended from school than their white counterparts, color blindness asks us to search for some rational explanation other than racial demonstration. Colorblind ideology can cause a form of denial in which we're unwilling to acknowledge race as the root cause of tough issues because we do not want to admit that we still have to work to do. We have to come to terms with Americans face issues by honestly examining ourselves and others' institutions.
Yeah, Jess.
So basically, what you just said right there is basically like they're saying like some races are scared to actually try to confront their problems and fix them instead of they just let them keep growing and don't try to do anything about it.
Totally. Yeah, Jeff's saying some people are afraid to kind of address the issues. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like
Yeah. 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 Jay was saying, is that like people like that are racist against Asians, for example? And like you don't really see a lot of Asian people out there protesting for like ending racism against Asian people. But like it happens. Yeah, that's like I think probably a big piece of kind of what's going on there and what they're talking about. This idea of color blindness. How does that sound when you first think about it? What are like pros and cons of color blindness? Think about like in the chat some pros and cons. Either like when you list one, say if it's a pro or a con. So we don't have to guess about it because some of it might be complicated. Let's go pros and cons for like 2 minutes. Pros and cons of color blindness. I think there's some things that like sound kind of good in theory about like I don't see race. Like I know a lot of people who that's how they think. It's 2021. They're white people. They might be black people. They that go like, you know what? I I don't see race. What are pros and cons? Con Javen, too literal, man. Can't see stoplights. Color blindness is in like I don't see race. Yeah, Emmanuel. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Emmanuel said like, does that mean like you can't like see some of the truth about race? Is that a pro or a con? That's a question, but it's also kind of a statement. I think if the answer is yes, that means like sometimes you can't just see the truth about race. Would that make it a pro or a con? In between, maybe. It could be both, maybe, if you don't see some of the issues that come along with it. Okay. All right. That's a hot take. Javen said, I think it's better if we don't see the issues. Marcus, you agree or disagree with that? Javen said, if we don't see the issues, then they're most likely going to go away. You agree with that? Say more. Yeah, he said if everybody like doesn't see the issues, then they're gonna go away. You disagree. Say more. Just because people don't see it doesn't mean it's not going to be an issue. Jazz, you also disagreed. Say more.
so basically you cannot it's more like trying to say the way race problems are defined. So it's like you don't hear it or you don't know about it, but once it comes around, like everybody knows about it.
Jazz said race problems like a virus. You might not see it, you might not know about it, but it's a problem that you're gonna hit. Yeah. All right, Jay, you heard a little response. Come.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, even though like nobody really recognizes the problem, like I'm not going to say like yeah, so it's great. It's like if you feel that's all
Jay's asking. So Jay's asking if people didn't recognize the issues, would it still be going on today? Marcus is emphatically saying yes, totally.
That's like, no, it's like this, when it was going on, it was Martin Luther King right now. Exactly, everything was still all the same. Nothing was changed. So, like, this is another. If you don't recognize the because eventually others will tell you what the problem is. Like, you will find even other than that, you will still find out the problem that you experience. No, I think when you say no, I think when you say because you said you don't recognize it, nobody recognizes the problem. It's like they think you are you got to you still gotta find the problem if you're not treated equal. And around that time, things are being equal. So who would have found the problem for being equal? That's basically what I'm saying. I'm trying to say that
Yeah. Hold on, Jay. Hold on.
He pretty much saying because the dog was trained like that, the dog was more work. Because the race like that. But if people have to do racism, some people that live up until this point still know how this is still. So probably going to start sooner or later with racism.
Yeah. So here's where I think this could be like super valid. Because at first, and then, well, I want to get some details out, and then we'll come back to you, James. At first, I was like, nah, he's tripping. That's crazy. I was on with Marcus and James at like, no way. But I think we were all misunderstanding a little bit of what Jay was saying at the very beginning. Where like, if that's the system that everybody's grown up in, and like everybody's working on the same understanding that like this is just kind of okay, then like it can be easy to look past the issues and not really think about it. That being said, is that possible with this situation? As I think what you're talking about is like if somebody's getting hit for no reason, like back in the days of slavery, like or even the civil rights movement, you look around and just go like, something doesn't feel right about that to me. Take this back even further and go like, all right, if we're looking at like, if we're really taking ourselves seriously as Christians, then like when you read the Bible, it's pretty clear that like this ain't it with the racism. And so like to have a whole society that has no idea what's going on about it is like an interesting hypothetical. Possible, but highly unlikely. And I agree with you there, only for a very short period of time. James, is there more that you wanted to add on there?
I was gonna say like he was just saying like a dog, like he was looking bad, like he was trained. He still gonna like look out other dogs and see how they out of control, and like he gonna try to like go over and reach his limit.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
and so that's where it comes back to like I think Jay conceded the point that like probably not possible for very long at all, if it is possible. All right, guys, but I want you